So pitch, melody and harmony, chapter 3. The first concept you need to know is that all sound that you're hearing is actually vibrations. So for something to vibrate, you think about it, has to move in one direction. That would be represented by this curve right here. And then it'll come back and vibrate in the other direction. The distance from there to there is considered one cycle or complete vibration. Now, if something vibrates relatively slowly, in other words, a slower number of times per second, it's considered a lower pitch. So that would be sounds like. The lower the sound, the slower it's vibrating. Conversely, if we're thinking of this as a timeline right here, and you can see that this is going back and forth, one complete vibration or cycle is happening much quicker than there, then that will be a higher or faster sound. So when somebody says, what's that frequency? They're actually saying how frequently is something vibrating back and forth, making a complete cycle. In music, we have taken certain vibration speeds, in other words, vibrations per second, and given them arbitrary names. So if something is vibrating 440 times per second, we gave it the arbitrary name of A. And that's a note that we reference. When somebody says A440, they mean the sound that's going 440 vibrations per second. And we've given arbitrary pitch levels, or vibration speeds, names. They are A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. So here is 440 vibrations per second, and this is 880 vibrations per second. We call this phenomenon the octave, and the reason for that is if you count from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we get to double the vibration speed of here, it sounds the same, but it's up an octave, so we just wrap around the alphabet. And similarly, if we were to go back down this way, so here's that A, 880, we'll go to the G just below that. Now if we were to go all the way down, I'm now an octave below, right there. And it will keep extending in both directions. We take those note names, those A through G, and then we keep going again, A through G, and if we go backwards or down, we'll hit G and then keep going in that way, backwards through the alphabet. And we use a vertical graph to help us notate which of these pitches we're using. So you can see I've drawn these symbols right here. They're called clefs, C-L-E-F-S, and they're symbols to tell you where an absolute pitch is. So see how this sort of spirals around this second line right here? If you find a note, notes are represented by, well, different things, but ovals are very common. That is a G. This is called the treble clef. Sometimes it's also called the G clef. And it's used for higher notes. So this note right here on the line that wraps around, if you have a note there is a G. It's the one just below A440. It's relatively high. And every space and line is another note name. So if I had a note right above that in the space right there, that would be the A. And if I go up to the next line, that would be the B. And the next space would be a C. And so on. And if we went backwards, then below, we have to go backwards through the alphabet, that would be an F right there. And so on. E, D, okay? When we get beyond the 5 lines and 4 spaces, we can add what's called a ledger line. It's like just an extra little line. Instead of writing out an entire whole line below this one, we just enough for the note right there. Okay? This clef right here is called the bass clef. It looks like half of a heart. It's got 2 dots around that line right there. It's used for primarily lower notes. So if, this is called the bass clef right here. If you want another name for it, sometimes it's called the F clef, because the two dots right there help us triangulate and know that if a note is written on that line, it's an F, okay? And then if we go up from there, that will be a G. If we go down from there, that will be an E. These notes have an intersection, and again, if you go to page 19 in your book, you'll see this there. But that one ledger line down, right here, okay, if I'm coming from this clef, that's C. And if I went from my F up to here and did one ledger line above from that one right there, that's also a C. And you can count that if you want to make sure. But it's the same note. So it can be notated in the treble clef right there, one ledger line below, or in the bass clef, one ledger line above, C. It's called middle C because it intersects between the two stabs, but it's also the C closest to the middle of the piano, okay? So for your test, you should be able to name the notes for anywhere up or down on these things. So if you remember that this here is a G, and that right there is an F, and that every line in space counts as a note, name. If you go up, that'll be an A, and a B, and a C, and a D, and an E, and so forth. And with the bass clef, if you know that this is an F right here, you can go up or you can go backwards down, E, D, C, B, and so on. If you run out of lines and spaces, you can just add extra small ones right there. So you can just keep going. They're called ledger lines. And for the test, you should be able to know treble clef, this note right here on the second line in treble clef is a G, and therefore you can count the other lines and spaces. And this is a bass clef, it's for lower notes, and that note second from the top line is an F, and then you can triangulate from there as well. This is all explained again on page 19 in your text, so if you want to go over that. And there are many good resources on the internet if you just wanted to put in on a Google search. Note naming or treble clef note naming, bass clef note naming, you'll find all of that information there.